corruption is bad unless I'm a part of it. Then corruption is good, said some Nigerian or African politician somewhere in Africa. Not really sure. Why am I quoting this guy? Well, I've been living in the Philippines, in Cebu City, Philippines, specifically for the last 2 years, I think, maybe even 2.5. And I've had my fair share of speaking with Filipinos, dating with Filipinas, having Filipino friends, meeting people that living in mansions and meeting people that live in a fish market, and being in the south of Cebu and north of Cebu. Whatever it is, I've probably experienced it in Cebu City, and I think I'm quite familiar as a foreigner with the Filipino culture. Of course, I'm not accumulating to be a Filipino, but sometimes I do feel more than a Filipino than I feel as a foreigner. And lately I've been going around and seeing a lot of videos about corruption, about the exposure of corruption from the kids. Now, as a person who lives in a westernized country, I recognize that there is corruption here from the first second I landed here. I mean, it's pretty clear to see that the Filipino country is abundant with resources. The only issue is the corruption that takes everything. It's not really the lack of resources, it's the lack of human force to create those resources. I mean, just take a look at BPO workers in IT park. They work their asses off, and clearly the money doesn't go to anywhere profitable, to understand that. And I'm not really a social media guy. I'm not watching on TikTok, definitely not on Instagram or anything like that. The only thing I do watch is usually YouTube, philosophy, sales, marketing, business stuff. But from what I've seen, and from the knowledge that I have about the world and about philosophy and about economics as a whole, I want to talk about the corruption that there is here in the Philippines and give my, not fair share, but my small, hopefully appreciated opinion about it. Now, of course, my opinion is that corruption is bad. I don't think there is an argument like that. I think, as I said before in the beginning of the video, the only people that think that corruption is good are the people that are part of the corruption. But I think that instead of trying to talk like all people about how bad corruption is and how it's the worst thing that can happen, how we need to boycott or do whatever there is against the corruption, I want to give an opinion on how I think we can fix it. Now, I'm not a politician, neither do I understand anything in the Filipino politics, so my opinion will not be a politics or geographical or even usable opinion as a mass, but it will be something that each and every one of us can do to be against corruption in our own small state of living. And I think I'll separate it to three things. Number one is the ideas that should come forth when talking to other people about corruption or when thinking about yourself about corruption. Number two will be the actual actions that you can do in order to stray from the idea of corruption and from the difficulties that corruption brings upon you in order to create an abundance life for you. And the third one will be a way of oppressing the corruption as a mass. Basically, what to do if you want to take action, and how do I see taking action as a thing of doing. I'll start with the last one. I think that a lot of times, with anything in life, not only in corruption, a lot of times we think that the best way to do something is to act upon it, is to make some sort of action or to make some sort of movement towards the way that we want to fix. Many times more than not, the thing that needs to be done is not necessarily by doing it, it's a lot of times by thinking about it. I'll give you an example. I think Lapu-Lapu, if I'm not mistaken, or not Lapu-Lapu, Lapu-Lapu was a warrior, but I'm sure I've read somewhere about a Filipino poet that got rid of the Spaniards by writing books. And he said the quote, I'm pretty sure it's him at least, "My weapon is my pen," or something like that. And that's totally true. A lot of those TikTokers and a lot of those social media guys and a lot of the people that are fighting against corruption are doing grace by giving it populated and by becoming publicists of the idea of against corruption. But a lot of times it's very shallow in the idea and the depth of it. I think that your best way to be against corruption, or your best way to educate your friends or your families or whatever about being against corruption, is instead of screaming empty passwords like corruption is bad, we need to stop corruption, we need to abort corruption, etc., etc., etc. It needs to be much more of a way of resistance against corruption by understanding it as a whole. Whether it is by reading about politicians that are corrupt and reading about people that are corrupt, and then explaining it to your family and to your whatever it is, or whether it's by understanding what is it exactly in corruption that creates the life that we are seeing right now, whether it's numbers or just ideas that are occurring, if that makes sense. Basically, knowledge yourself more, read more, understand more, instead of just trying to act all the time. Figure it out deeply. I think it will create a much better opportunity for you to fight against it. Number two thing I will do is, instead of hating the state of corruption, and instead of creating anger and resentment towards the idea of corruption, try to stray from it. I don't know if straying from it means don't care about it, because don't care about it will be foolish. I think straying from it will mean that you will create your own little bubble of success and abundance, that the corruption will not bother you as much as it would be if it's in your face. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as most of us would like to, unless we create a mass scale or go to mass rallies against the idea of corruption, the corruption will not stop. So if you don't decide to be an educator, to be a fighter, and to go ahead and do stuff against it, which I totally welcome, build your own little bubble that will allow you to not get bothered from it as it should be. I mean, Nietzsche, in my favorite book, Das Buch Zarathustra, wrote about it beautifully in his video, in his chapter on War and Warriors. He talked about that a lot of times people are incapable of being warriors, they're incapable of fighting, they're incapable of being soldiers. Whether it's because they lack the assertiveness and the aggressiveness that derives a person, or whether it's just because that they don't really have the idea of fighting and creating violence towards others. If you lack this idea, and if you lack this feeling, or if you lack the motivation to be one of those people, instead of trying forcibly to be, allow yourself to just create your own bubble of success and abundance, that the thing that you're fighting for will not bother you as much as it would be. So I think, if to summarize up this idea, there's three categories of a fighter. There is the fighter that is intelligent enough to write with the pen and to give ideas to others and to research and understand exactly what is the corruption about, and then fight from it as a knowledgeable person and as an intelligent that inspires other people to do so. There is the fighter that will go to the rallies and fight against corruption and throw rocks, or I don't know, even burn the government's house like they did in Nepal, which I totally appreciate. I mean, I don't think there is any way to end corruption besides mass violence and cutting off heads in the middle square. I mean, at the end of the day, corrupt politician will not want to stop being a corrupt politician. I don't see any person who drives a McLaren who will be like, oh, you know what, I don't want a McLaren anymore, I'm okay. I'm sure all of them are happily corrupt and happily have their cars and happily destroying Philippines for their own sake. So unless we do something very violent about it, it will not stop. And the third way is to just live your own life with understanding that you don't want to fight it in a brutal way and you don't want to be an intelligent person. So you're just allowing yourself to build your own bubble of success and abundance, that the corruption will not bother you. Now, how do you do that? Well, if you work as a regular Filipino, basically freelancing stuff, VA stuff, BPO workers, etc., you will not be able to escape the Filipino corruption. And that is because you will still get paid in Filipino salary. The only way to really escape and to create yourself your own bubble of abundance is by creating and understanding a skill that will allow you to escape from the Filipino very clear glass roof of 20K, 30K, 40K a month. There's many skills out there that you can learn. I don't have the perfect solution. I only have one of them. I don't even want to sell it to you, to be honest. If you're interested, you can just DM me, but I think that this video came to give much more education than actual selling. I hope this video helped. I hope I managed to be a pen and a weapon for the ideas I'm trying to push forward. And yeah, I mean, corruption, politicians, corruption. Try to live your life to the best. I think that's the only last thing we have to do. Thank you guys for watching.